Piep, 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 piep. Wie heeft er allemaal kinderen? Ja, wie niet? Jezus. Goed productieteam ook nog. Ja. Ga je zo werken? Ik ga staan en maak wat van. Wat? Ja, maar ik probeer het een beetje. Maak ze wel een beetje. Het is een beetje moeilijk om online te komen. Oké, dag jongens. Ja, oké, 10 seconden. Wacht eventjes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to EBUC 2019 here on the WFDF YouTube channel and live on Facebook as well. We've got mixed masters action now between Portugal, the host nation, and the Netherlands. Nice little hello there from the Netherlands to their various offspring watching back home in their home nation. Lovely to see that the support that these players are getting from their various family around the world.
I have to say, Benji, the cutest element of this entire tournament has to be the adorable sidelines, the tiny humans in their tiny supporter shirts. They're adorable, making sand castles and causing all sorts of mischief.
I'm not that. Oh, you mean the children? Oh, I've got you. I've got you. Benji Reese here with you alongside Hannah Pendlebury, bringing you action from this aforementioned mixed masters division, Netherlands and home side Portugal. How are these sides fared coming into this contest, Hannah?
Well, I've just been looking it up, and I think the Portuguese have had some mostly losses. We've had losses against Russia 13-5, Germany 13-5, and the Spanish 11-5. One win to their name, which we saw this morning. No, sorry, not this morning. The Portuguese winning against the Swiss. Sorry, that was the first game of the day. A close one, went to Universe Point 9-8, the final score there. Just looking up the Netherlands, they had an 11-8 loss to the Spanish too. We had, just scrolling down the list, another loss to the Germans, 12-5. So clearly both sides having sustained some heavy losses. The Dutch did manage to surmount the Russians, who put away the Portuguese in emphatic style. So I'd say favourites coming into the game are the team in orange to the right-hand side of your screen as we see the pitch. But Portugal did cause an upset against, well, nearly caused an upset against GB in the previous game in the senior division. So some tasty talent from the home nation for sure. Give us hopefully a good game here.
One of the things I found with Ultimate is generally you can throw out the form book and the transitive property never seems to apply. We'll see what happens here as the Dutch get underway. Looking for an underneath to start, not there, so you have to lash it deep on Eistel. What a catch that is early on from Bart Keisten. Long hair flowing behind him, dumps the disc off the Spaniard. And Spaniard's got an up line, little cheeky push pass for the goal. So number 55, Heymans. What a play to start this game from the Dutch Mixed Masters.
Yeah, that was a lot of clustering initially, but then managed to find some space to Johan Heymans. And takes their first point of on the board, and that is a break for the Netherlands D-line off a very early execution error from the Portuguese.
You see that, replay that little push pass there up the line. Also, I love that the Dutch have a player called Spaniard. Feels somewhat counterintuitive, but...
Well, I'm not sure it helped them much against them in their game. As I say, the Spanish taking that one 11-8 off the Netherlands team.
What a play that was, going deep from Bart Keisten as well. Full extension, really had to cover a lot of sand, and that's what you should do on a high stall if there's nothing there. Just take the put deep and hope a receiver can make a play, and by God did he make a play. So here's our first look. Portuguese going in this downwind direction, going to try and sit a blade up once more. Tight contest, well brought down by Rui Ferreira. Now looking, maybe he's going to try a push pass. Works for the Dutch and it works for the Portuguese as well. Eva Diaz in that front corner. Both goals been scored there, tie back up at 1 apiece.
Yeah, Ruth Ferreira, his wife, playing for the mixed team in the senior division. Nice to see him on the field. Big name in beach ultimate.
Was tight pressure there under that disc from Adriaan van der Lely, but couldn't quite get there. And there's the little push pass into the end zone for the goal. Ties it up at 1 apiece.
Well, at the moment, the Dutch looking dominant, certainly. That was high pressure from the defence there. But Portugal managed to use the inches of space that they had available to convert their first offensive point, 1 apiece.
The wind is really whipping up here. We're a little bit exposed on in our position, the commentary booth above the media box. You can see the flags fluttering in the background as well, really picking up this wind going across your screen, right to left and away from the camera. So there's definitely a downwind direction and there's definitely a downwind sideline as well. Difficult conditions to play in, but you kind of get used to that on the beach.
You do, as we see that big hut go up.
That's a little too big, I think.
So to talk a bit more about the conditions today, actually, as we've said previously on this live stream, it's the generally we've had quiet mornings, but today, as you can see above the pitch, we've got lovely blue skies, that higher pressure system currently above us. The wind's just been a constant player in these fields, almost like an extra defender on the field. And as you say, we're about sort of quite exposed in our position in our commentary booth. We're almost at the level where most of the hucks are sort of flying to height-wise. So when we talk about the disc, when it's being thrown deep into the pitch, we're talking about the wind that we're literally feeling at our backs and our knees for our Brian, our statsman, who's wrapped up very warm indeed.
So nothing really developing, tries to blade it downfield, and you see there, you show the underside of the disc to the wind, as João Lopes did there. It is going to get taken away, and lashing it deep immediately right out the back of the end zone, just in front of our little sponsor boards. You can see there the WFDF, the World Flying Disc Federation, as well as a couple of our other sponsors, Discraft as well. There's a couple of VEC signs as well, both who do excellent work supporting not just these championships, but Ultimate worldwide.
Yes. Not sure how many pairs of old Universe Point cleats we'll be seeing on display at these his pitches. Although I think I would like to see, just for the fun of it, a beach game played in cleats.
You can play. You can play in that. I'm gonna keep my games shoe free. Sand socks maybe at a push. So Cayenne Dio looking around, not really seeing much. Puts a little floaty one up on a high stool. That is well read and brought in by João Duarte. And now running a little bit of the gauntlet there with Silva. Now they're going to try and squeeze one down the line. There's a bid there, never actually got a chance to make a play. The throw died just as he was steadying himself to explode out of the sand.
Yeah, shame to see that one thrown away after a great bailout from, I think that was from the hand of the number 10, Cayendo.
Doing the right thing, just put a little bit under it, try and get someone to make a play, but obviously if you put too much under it, it's going to not be caught. The Dutch have just no fear. Every throw, they're just lashing these blades deep.
Well, I think they might be playing a wee bit of huck and D, Benji.
In these conditions, playing the field position's not necessarily the most terrible idea, but Munster Hoist couldn't get that one, yeah.
You'd expect more from the Master Mixed Division, though, wouldn't you? A bit more age and experience, not just having to lash it deep and, well, definitely it's a hard ask for the teams to go the full 60 metres upwind, with as gusting as it is, but
it's really fun to lash it deep, though. Now the Portuguese are doing the same. This is what you've got to do, float, get a little bit of air underneath it. Cayendao looking around, tries to get a dump, oh, falls over, so once more puts a bit of air under it. This is an absolute hospital pass. João Lopes brings that one down, a nice lead backhand into the end zone for the Portuguese. They're going to break now and take a 2-1 lead. João Duarte with the goal.
Yeah, Lopez there, great celebration. Not sure if we'll get another look at that one, but the double gloved backwards cap handler look, giving us a textbook, just lovely lead backhand pass, sit it on the break side of the end zone and go and get. But Those two absolute hospital passes off the hand of Thupmani Kayendiao. And that's a great reception, just completely separate, on his own, all the time in the world to just make a safe catch.
I mean, you're seeing exactly, I mean, the Dutch turned it over 3 times at that point, and they only had 5 passes, so they're just, it's very much let's try and get deep and try and make it work against the wind. But the Portuguese there showed that they could do it. Yeah,
it will be interesting to see if perhaps the Dutch will actually try to take away the deep option a bit more. When they put that big shot up on the high stool, there didn't seem to be anyone behind the Portuguese players. There were 3 of them, all completely separate in the backfield, able to kind of, cluster nicely, set their position early underneath that hanging disc.
Dutch are going to bring the disc in from the brick block. Martin Belliars. Zone look from the Portuguese. There's a free dump, and they're going to take that option now. Swinging to the far side, just a simple drop from Mia Molinar. Good field position for the Portuguese. Obviously, you'd prefer to be on the high wind side. Not quite got that option, though. High release is going to go over everyone, and just in the end knocked to the sand by the Dutch defender.
So this Portuguese zone, a flat mark on the disc with 3 sort of trying to cluster up the space in the midsection of the pitch with 1 deep.
Good use there of the wind, getting that high release, letting it just sit a little bit rather than getting it low and have it being pushed down to the sand now, blading around. Just going to be a little bit patient, not just trying to work some holes through it, nothing immediately opening up. You see him motioning downfield. They're spread all the way laterally across the pitch, waiting for the dump swings, but they're just not coming. Getting a bit of field position now, but stagnating. There's not a huge amount of continuation. Disc goes back as the dump. Just Belliars with the disc now, playing a lot of give-go with Helenius, and now they're working it through. Going to get a bit of a gainer.
Yeah, this is much better penetration of that initial sort of cluster of 4 players.
Disc goes back to Helenius. Oh, Vandelelli.
Oh, that's a costly error.
He was just too casual with it. The man who's usually playing for Rusty Bikes couldn't bring that one in. He was actually wearing, I believe, one of the Rusty Bikes trucker hats as well. You see backwards on his head.
Good spot, Benji. We've got some solid headgear game. Lots of backwards caps. Never sure what the backwards cap is all about.
Stop it. I guess it does stop the back of your neck being burned.
That's true. So when we see someone playing in the full safari cap, looking forward to that.
Oh, Jamie Cross, that's the one for that. He's always good. So the Portuguese D-line offense looking pretty effective here. Oh, that's a killer inside break, but a layout D to keep the point alive.
Oh, he telegraphed that throw. I think if Armo Garrett hadn't actually got into that, I'd be just sorely disappointed.
Yeah, looked for it all the way.
Gerrard's there with the D, the landscape architect from Groningen, 40 years of age.
That's a job, isn't it? A landscape architect. I love that. This throw from the Dutch is just going to float out the sideline. You see there it's going to get pushed underneath into the bleachers. Asking for another disc from one of our volunteers on the sideline. All the volunteers have got a little set of gear for the pitches, and one of them's got the disc out the box, although I think someone might be going around the far right to try and rescue that one anyway. Yeah,
we saw a little discussion there between 2 of the players. Couldn't quite see exactly who it was, but I think maybe talking about the level of contact, perhaps.
So the Portuguese bringing the disc back in, with Belliars on the mark for the Dutch. Try to shoot an inside breakthrough, and that's going to go over everyone and right back out the end zone. Those little sponsor boards are getting a lot of airtime, aren't they?
They are indeed. An ambitious choice of throw. Really did soar over the heads of pretty much everyone, just spread over to that right-hand side. There wasn't anyone in that space to go and receive that disc, but perhaps just overcooked it a bit.
But we saw this a little bit with the Dutch. Teams happy to turn over deep in that direction, make the other team have to work at the full length of the central zone to get that score. Rui Perez is going to put the mark on. Helenius is once more initiating the play, going to swing to start, working it around the back. throw a little bit off target, but caught comfortably.
This is much better movement from the handlers, following their passes through as we see that hut go up.
It's going to sit, it's going to float. Vanderlei had position. Oh, the disc going to be maxed back up, and he might get a second shot at it. Made an acrobatic play, but it was always going to go out of bounds in the end. Vanderlei would probably be disappointed with himself. He would have backed himself to bring that in.
Was it Vanderlei earlier we saw with that casual knot grab?
It was.
Oh, that's 2 for him. But he did try and make the valiant hero greatest bid, so, you know, can't be too hard on the lad.
He's doing the right thing, always going for the disc, because in these winds, throws are, when they're tipped, they're going to pop up, and there's going to be a chance to make a second play at a lot of these.
Oh, broken coverage with a stumble downfield.
They're going to shoot it deep, wide open in space if she can get there, but it's going to be too far towards that far sideline for Ana Pires.
Yeah, she tried to run it down long, couldn't change direction soon enough. If she'd come a bit harder on the turn through and just come straight to the sideline, perhaps she might have met the disc in flight, but a bit too much overcooked it, which is a shame because she was absolutely acres free.
Yeah, Ferreira with the put, just put a little too much sauce on that one. As the wind really beginning to whip up behind us now. And they're going to try and shoot deep. That one's going to be always undercooked. Ferreira's all over that one.
Talk about the wind being a 6th defender. That almost seemed like the wind was pushing it directly into Ferreira's hands.
And Pires is going to throw it out to this sideline looking for Rui Ferreira. So it's point becoming a bit of a grind. And often I find on the beach, if points have a couple of turnovers, they tend to have a few more as players tire on the sand and discs that would normally be on target at the side. You lose your form a little bit, you can't quite chase them down. That disc is going to float over everyone.
Again, good coverage from Ferreira, playing the deep. But perhaps the Netherlands need to think about more throwing some mid-range puts, try and pop it over the heads of the 3 loose sort of poachy marks in the centre of the field, rather than trying to just chuck it deep, play big ball against Rue.
If I'm the Dutch here, I'm doing everything I can to stop a disc going deep and trying to get good field position. And as I say that, just pivots out, wastes no time. That feels a lot like just playing the field position game, Hannah.
Yeah, you could see Rue Ferreira to kind of, you know, just getting out of the way. That disc had so much zip on it.
A little bit of a chill up here in the booth. It's obviously a bit warmer down on the beach where you're a bit less exposed. Hellenius is going to pick it up once more. He's going to take a dump to begin things here for the Dutch. There's a player wide open behind the coverage. If they could get it to her. Going to look it off this time though. Just very wary of what's going to happen in that upwind direction.
And there we see that pop over that wall of black shirts.
Another
great jailbreak.
Working it through nicely. There's a player wide open and the disc just hits the wind, but lefty back, and they had too much outside in on it. It just pushed it towards that sideline. So often we see when there's a player free open like that, the temptation is just to run deep and finish it in one pass. But especially in this wind, you can just come shorter and you can run the gauntlet all the way down the field for the goal.
And that's so disappointing. Such a nice break through the Portuguese zone from the Dutch. And to see it end that way, heartbreaker. But playing the game of throwing those big ones up that fast sidelines paid off with a short field for the Dutch. Opportunity to score upwind.
This is exactly what their offense would have wanted, a short field to try and convert. He has to take a little dish out. Here's Garelts trying to zing one into the end zone for Vanderlei. He's made another big bid and he's not afraid to throw himself all over the place, but that one's always going to go out of his reach and again out of that far sideline. And they've got another situation here where they've got to be wary about that deep going.
On his player survey, Vanderlei doesn't talk about really his oh, actually, no, he does talk about his layouts, but it's only in the case of, sort of, he has it roadrunner sounds that he makes, blurry feet and sand consumption and excavation through his face and body as we see Portugal take a wily timeout.
Yeah, this is this point has got very agricultural, just trying to plough the way up the field against the wind in the other direction, just shooting it deep with little regard for anything. And this is, I mean, 15 minutes in, it's still 2-1. It's certainly a slower paced game than some of the others we've seen.
Well, and this has become a grinder of a point. I don't know how many turns we've had apiece just yet, but certainly plenty more passes on the Portuguese side than there has been. No, Joe, I take that back. I'm trying to find out the live stats from our statsman Brian. I'm looking at the previous point.
Yeah, the Netherlands have made more than twice as many passes. They've passed it 37 times this point compared to Portugal's 15.
There we go. I knew there'd be a significant difference, obviously, because the Netherlands trying to just get somehow to that upwind side of this field.
But the Dutch have turned it over 8 times this point, the Portuguese 7. This is a bit of a marathon, a bit of a hell point. Both sides will be desperate to get some fresh legs on. Often when I find as well, when you have really long points like this, it can act as a huge kind of boost if you can finally grind it out and say, yes, we've got the mental fortitude, we've got the kind of the physical fitness to win those battle points if they come up against once more. And if you lose them, it's so disheartening to work for so long and then come away with nothing.
Yeah, they can be big momentum changes, those long meat grinder of a point. But the Portuguese coming hot off the heels of one defensive break. If they can get a second, certainly talking about that momentum, they're going to have a real shot at swinging this game firmly in their favour, which wasn't what we expected based on the previous results.
Portuguese just about to break their header here. And just see what they choose to drop out of this timeout, because I think based on previous evidence, I'd imagine it's some sort of deep look. But
it seems wise to you know, as we've seen most of this game, just chuck it deep.
Let's see how the Dutch choose to defend against this, but no stall count on the mark. They can choose to put who they want there without the risk of sacrificing valuable seconds of stall. So I'd get your best force on there, get it nice and big, and just desperately try to stop that backhand. Maybe force them. I'd think about forcing them up the line rather than in towards the pitch, as the Dutch are doing. And that's the result. A big cut goes. That's a beauty though for Rui Ferreira. Taking the little dish off now. Ana Pires shooting into the end zone and just bounces off Ferreira's hand. Would have been a spectacular play, probably in the top 5 of the day for sure, but it just can't quite make it stick.
Yeah, he went for the photo finish with the reaching single arm grab, but couldn't claw it out the sky effectively enough. Had a good go at it though. Looking at Portugal's previous results around the rest of this pool, we've seen them generally struggle the latter stages of the game, so it'll be interesting to see how they fare with this big old point sucking up so much of their energy.
Yeah, they have built a shorter roster than the Netherlands in terms of nice layout there. I meant in terms of numbers rather than height, but as we mentioned, as game tires on, that could make an effect.
Surprising to see, considering it's the home side, but then when you look at the ages of the players on the Portuguese mixed roster, plenty of them are also Masters eligible, and a huge block comes out of the hand of Marco Nave.
Yeah, it was all over that one. Looks for the up one, and he shut the window before it ever truly opened. Good field position here for Portugal, starting probably just about in the Dutch half. Looks up the line, doesn't like it. Ferreira comes underneath now. Beautiful raking around break into the middle of the field for Rui Pires, and what a throw that is to Ana Pires for the Portuguese goal, and a 3-1 lead now.
Well, there we go. We were talking about that point being full of all the potential to make momentum, and Marco Nave there, the salesman for an injection mold machine company, he definitely injected some fire by getting that layout block into his team, and that high, lofty pop pass for the score. Couldn't have done it better.
Nicely done from the Portuguese. Now, Pires throwing the assist there. He's an all-around athlete in terms of disc sports, not just ultimate as well, but he competes in overall categories, so that's everything like accuracy, double disc court, disc golf, freestyle. He's a player who's more than comfortable with the disc in his hand, and in these windy conditions, just the more time you can have throwing that plastic, the better.
Yeah, the conditions currently actually pretty much perfect for doing a little bit of freestyle, just allowing the disc to hang up in the wind as you do those cool body rolls. If you've never checked out freestyle, highly recommend looking it up on YouTube, perhaps between gaps in the stream games here.
So Spaniard finds Aguilar downfield. Clyston isn't open, still count rising. Gets it underneath and just going off the hands of Hymans. Now the Portuguese offense trying to go in this windy direction. We see there too much blade on that. The wind pushes it. These throws have got to come out flat. Otherwise they're just gonna be too affected. Well, Clyston pops up, well caught. Wants to shoot it deep. He's gonna do so. Tight pressure, and how did she come up with that? I thought for all the world that Norte had the better position on it, but great grab by Yannicka Aguilar.
Look at the height mismatch though there. Paula Norte, not a particularly large player, and the receiver just a full head of height above her, just catches it over the top. Not really anything she can do, because they were sort of chasing it down from behind. Couldn't manage to turn and spring up and try and cause any mischief for the intended target. Look at that turn, great separation on the sand. And a nicely weighted disc as well. So you can see her just try and reach, but doesn't quite manage to make the gap small enough to get a block.
Yeah, using you talked about the height mismatch there, and sometimes, especially in these windy conditions, it's not a bad idea to play the percentages. Have another look at on the weather, but just snatches it. He puts those long arms to good use, the full wingspan at play there.
So that's Aguilar, right?
It is indeed.
The offensive cutter plays for Chronicle Dizziness, but previous appearances with the Netherlands women and Masters women's teams, but presumably on grass rather than beach.
Nice catch there by Nuno Silva. Pivots around for the backhand. He's got a man open. It's going to just sit over his head. Misread. Got too far underneath it. Marco Nava didn't adjust for the wind, pushing it further away, and it might come back. There's a foul on the throw as well.
Well, either way, that sat and hung for a very long time. Nave maybe needs to go back into the library, Benji. Improve his reading skills.
Paolo Toffanin, a little bit guilty of just getting too close on the force. So uncontested, it's going to be checked back in by Toffanin. Nuno Silva. Perez. Looking around, nice high grab made there. Now working downfield, looking very comfortable, it has to be said, the Portuguese. And obviously I put the curse of the commentator on there.
Indeed, just a complete bobble of the disc into the sand.
Upline finds Reedsma now. Toffanin has it on the far sideline, shooting deep. Can she read it? Just about turned to face the disc and was ready to make a play, but Marco Nava slapping it to the sand before she had a chance.
Yeah, Caroline there. Often seen at fun party tournaments with a little cat ears on her head. Manager of the Fat Cats hat team, and that's a great score from Portugal. Player doesn't call a travel. What a way to catch and jump at the same time, Benji.
Toffanin just looked around like, what am I supposed to do to stop that? And you've got to back, I mean, if you're the Dutch, you've got to back the Portuguese cutters going in that direction. You cannot let them get deep. And I think you've got to start going flat on these forces, or at least force flick. You cannot let that big backhand down this sideline go, because it is killing them right now.
It is, Benji. And that is that another break of score? No, that's just a hold for the Portuguese, but they are still 2 breaks up in this game. The Netherlands D-line now, well, they'll be off the pitch at the moment, but they need to go out and get some.
I'd consider, rather than having O and D lines, think about having a downwind line and an upwind line. Stack your upwind line with really strong throwers, so when you do get the disc, you can have the confidence to have any throw available to you.
Yeah, that would be a good team adjustment. Wonder if perhaps that is the case for either of these teams.
Kyston's coming deep. Nice high grab, that one. Made that catch look easier than it was. Fakes that forehand. Takes the dump backwards instead. Poik.
You can see on the dumps as they throw into the wind, the wobble on those discs.
Shooting deep, looking for Kyston. That's going to be a little bit underdone. Oh, nearly somehow came up with it in the end.
No, ground stripped, unfortunately. Turnover.
Good use of hand signals there. Nice communication between the players and the sideline.
Yeah, Bart Houston, great hair, great hand signals.
But Rui Ferreira got away with one a little bit there. Guilty of just assuming that he could just pop it away rather than catch it. And he let his defender in, the receiver in there. In this wind, tips and bobbles are going to pop back up in the wind, and you cannot give anyone a second shot at it. Dutch got a second shot now. Hyman's looking downfield. Trying to zing a blade to that far corner. Always too far, never a shot. Goes behind the spirit of the game side.
Going back just briefly to that bobbled catch, I think if that had been made, you were saying earlier, Benji, about something making the highlight reel. In fact, I think it was Rui Ferreira's one-handed attempt at the layout score, hanging in mid-air as if on a thread. But if that bobbled catch had been recaught, that would have been, sorry, the bobbled D had been recaught, that would have been definitely up there in the highlights.
So the wind whipping through the stands in the fields here on the beautiful beach of Praia da Rocha, Portimao, Portugal. Golden sand, blue skies, the Atlantic Ocean lapping away to our right. And anyone who had Wednesday morning in the sweepstake of when I finally got in, I did, and believe me, it is freezing. So I think I've done it for the week. I can put it away now.
Well, we're still early on in the year, Benji. The ocean will be at its warmest, well, towards more sort of October time here in the Algarve. As we see the two players, they're having a chat on the mark, or not sure if Humans was yelling at his teammates who are all very, very far away from them. Not sure any of them could hear him from that distance. No,
especially with the winds, trying to, in the end, just try to lash a blade deep to Kyston, but João Lopes there doing a better job on the mark, I think, of staying straight up and just doing a concerted effort to stop these big shots going. In the end, it had to be that blade, which is never going to be caught.
But once more, a bit of huck and D in this mixed masters match.
Is João Lopes, the aforementioned, to bring in from that sideline. Those two gloved hands holding the disc, looking for his sidearm into the centre. Finds Rui Ferreira, dishes it off now. Throw blades and somehow slips through the letterbox that Paulo Norte gave it.
Oh, that's the clap of doom right there.
Go for it, it's just not there.
Look at both. My favourite is when the player turns the palms up to look at the hand to be, you have betrayed me.
Why? Why would you do this?
Why do you do this?
Here's Hyman's now. Disc not too far from the end zone. Again, looking for Kyston with that blade. Just, you don't need to put quite so much spice on it, I think. I'm
really not a fan of the play of Hugo Hyman's right now. He's not really at any point turning and looking for a dump option or an option horizontally. He just, his eyes, he's got end zone eyes.
I mean, at the very least, if you're going to put it into the end zone, I know they're conscious of the wind, but try to put a little bit underneath it so that they at least got a chance if it pops up for people to make a play. But if it goes right out the back of the end zone, no one's got a shot.
So, as we said, Master Mix game. This is a pool game still. Master Mix Pool B. At the moment, the Germans at the top of the pool, Netherlands in third place. Portugal are currently fifth based on their results with only one win to their name. So this is a crucial game for the Portuguese to win if they can eke it out with 2 breaks ahead.
Thinking about the deep shot, what a point block by Hyman. Smothered on the disc completely.
All right, he might not look for his dump enough, but that was a block and a half.
And it's given them fantastic field position. Not a lot going on though. Now he turns and isolates the reset. Poik puts it up with a bit of float underneath it. Well read. Oh, brought out of the sky by Julian Monsterhuis. What a grab.
Oh, that was absolutely Monsterhuis. Talk about a monster grab. Again, the height mismatch for the Dutch women versus their counterparts on the Portuguese side, using that with great effect.
She often plies her trade on the grass. Back in the States with Minneapolis's mixed team, No Touching.
That's a great team name, I like that.
They've qualified for USA Club Nationals for the past 3 years, and she's represented at the Masters level as well, showing why she's got all those caps and those stats to her name now.
Also, another excellently known team she plays for called Hey Babe, 2017 until present. And that's the Master Club team she plays for, I think. But so, currently score is 4-3, Portugal in the lead. Made Netherlands work very hard just to hold their offense there, downwind.
Yeah, just the one upwind score at the moment. The real difference between these teams, and it went Portugal's way. Portuguese now.
We see perhaps a violation call there. I'm not sure why there's
some sort of contact downfield. João Duarte is going to right himself back up now, so they're just working on the stall. Marco Nava rocking the tank top on the beach.
Oh, it's all about the gun show, mate. Got to get your... There's so many frisbee players with excellent tan lines all over their bodies, as we all wear slightly different styles of uniform.
Yeah, sweatband tans, tape tans, pretty much everything you can imagine. Here's Nava looking deep. Oh, this is going to be underthrown, and did the right thing there. Did Toffinen have made sure he caught it so there wasn't a second play available. There's an underneath going here. Oh, it's just going to pop up over. Slapped to the sand by Eva Dias. Standing over the disc. Looking downfield. Not really seeing anything though. It's for Nava. Nava with a big pump of that backhand fake. He's going to take the swing instead. Goes up line, gets it into space. No deep cut comes timed. Zings that across the pitch, not quite into the end zone, and from his knees, throws it as he gets up, and João Duarte with the goal for a 5-3 Portugal lead.
Whoa, I mean, to be fair, that was a great little pop at the end, but your hockey assist, what a throw from Marco Nav. That was absolutely sensational. Once again, we said he used the pun already of he injected some vigor during that very grueling point, but that was just a laser backhand.
Yeah, the force guilty of being too far off, stopping any possible strike up the line throw, and it allowed him to really pivot around and side that backhand across the pitch. See it again here from this low angle replay. Excellent footage provided from our Ulti TV camera crew. You can see that pink Discraft disc rolling its way across the pitch. Goes down to his knees, does the right thing as well, gets his chest behind it, so give a nice backboard to aim at, and then as he gets up, just a simple pop to João Duarte for the goal.
Yeah, exposing that break side. There was no way in hell that the mark was ever going to get there to be able to prevent that final little pop. So not the easiest looking offense in the world. Netherlands certainly didn't give Portugal an easy ride of that one, having to really use their throwing prowess in order to generate.
This cold wind really playing havoc with the team's offenses here.
Yeah, it is hot sand but cold wind, so you've got warm feet but perhaps chilly tops of the heads.
That ball is going to sit and float, and it's going to tail off out that sideline. Not going to quite land in the stands. In front of that communicate respectfully sign, you'll see Marco Nava go and pick the disc up.
You can see how the wind's changed though there, Benji. Where that ball was really, really sitting and floating, it only very gently moved to that far side, whereas earlier on today we've saw a much more of a crosswind across this pitch, a little bit more diagonally shaded.
So we've had the timed half-time, so that's why Portugal are going back in this direction now. So that earlier upwind break almost counts double, because now the Dutch will have to get a couple of them to turn the game back in their favour, and they haven't really shown that they're any ability to do that. They came close once or twice, but most of the time the Portuguese done a pretty good job of shutting them down in this direction.
Just over 10 minutes remaining. Still time. There's just a crack of daylight between these two scores. Portugal 5-3 ahead. But as you say, Benji, charging into this wind is a tricky, tricky feat.
Here's Toughen in. Vanderlei working underneath. The Dutch cutters seem to be working so much harder now. They've kind of realised that the game time is running out. Here's Molinar, thinks about the deep look. Calls a little infraction on the mark. Dump goes off now. Here's Toughen in, trying to swing across. Oh, this is going to pop up. Vanderlei gets underneath and he gets a bit of contact as he tried to make the catch. Rui Ferreira's not going to make.
Yeah, that was a pretty big hand slap, and Ferreira, I think he knows that. Good spirit. Oh, collision middle of the field. Little hip bump there, almost a dance move.
Arno Garalt tried to come through and just got a bit of contact with João Lopes as he did so. So Vanderlei will bring the disc back in now. Dump goes, looking downfield. Holding it on that backhand side and throws it too far out in front of the receiver. Looking for number 4, Mian Molinar. The Dutch offense was looking pretty good until that point. Finally able to work the disc underneath, really tire out those Portuguese defenders. Looking for that around break into the center of the pitch. Does get it off. Here's João Lopes. Thinking about an inside bid comes. Never going to get there now. Shooting it deep. There's a cutter there. If she can chase it down, it just continues going when Paula Norte needed it to stop.
Dutch are doing a really good job of pressing the Portuguese onto the far sideline right now. They've seen them be absolutely devastating with backhand breaks just a few minutes earlier, but it's nice to see them really shut that down and make the Portuguese look very squeezed when they're trying to execute their offense. And that lofty dump pass nearly got D'd.
So we'll see if this Dutch offense can finally score against the wind underneath Toughen in. They're not really gaining any yards on these underneath cuts, and it's meaning that they're having to work so much harder. He's going to try and deny a backhand, and everyone's going to get underneath that. Rui Lopes actually Max in the air. I think he was trying to get a bit more distance with that D, set them up slightly closer to the end zone. Fakes a high release, flick, doesn't go, instead shows the backhand. Thinks about a high release there, never takes the dump off. Oh, and the defender Vanderlei continued to follow that cut to the open side, and he just stopped. Rui Ferreira went back to the break side.
See, I'm not sure though there about the mark of Paulo Toughen. He I think they were forcing flick that point, and he just really wasn't set up in the correct place to shut down that around backhand whatsoever. Also in that really high hanging situation that you'll see again here, he's a big old body and there's nowhere to be found, even though the player he's marking is right underneath it.
You see there, he kind of slaps it away with a backhand, so it's trying to make it just floaty and floppy, difficult to catch, and as well as that, maybe make it a little bit close to the end zone, maybe smuggle some free yards on that turnover. So the Portuguese get that downwind score, a 6-3 lead now with time running out in the game and the wind being as fierce as it is. You'd have to back the Portuguese in this position.
You would indeed, and perhaps that might cause some potential upsets in their pool, as we'll see them head towards a hope of a final on Friday.
Nice underneath there for the Dutch offense. Verhoist finding Spaniard. He's going to put it deep, looking for his second assist of the game, and right underneath it is the cutter. That was a perfectly weighted shot to Janneke Aiguilar.
And that's what the Netherlands need to do right now. They need to execute their shots, especially on the downwind, make them nice and quick, give themselves plenty more room. They've got just under 4 minutes remaining of regulation time in this game to claw back the hole they've currently set themselves in. 2 breaks down to the Portuguese.
You know, if you can get the downwind points in quickly, you just put more pressure on the other team to do the same for theirs. And obviously, the more time you're spending going upwind, the more time they're spending going downwind. If you can get your downwind breaks in quickly, there's no chance of the other team to steal one in the opposite direction. Benji Rees and Hannah Pendlebury here on the beach for EBUC 2019 here at the Praia da Rocha. It's a beautiful surroundings. The teams warming up around us, readying for their next game. Still in the thick of the action in this mixed masters match between the Dutch side wearing their trademark orange and Portugal in black, receiving the disc here, up 6-4. Marco Naves gonna let that hit the turf. Here's João Lopes. Underneath comes, and there's a pick called. One of the advantages of those tank tops is you can really see the guns on those pick calls. Throw went deep into the end zone, but everyone had already stopped by that point.
Looking at the other results for the Netherlands, actually, they have either pulled away or been pulled away from. They've not had a comeback yet this tournament. Things sort of, the shape of the game coming out quickly. Their big win against the Swiss thus far, 13-7. Whereas the Spanish took a game away from them with their lead to take that one 11-8. These are all games that have already been played.
Yeah, if you're interested in following the results from teams from your home nation or from any particular one you choose, you can have a look at the live page, which is live.ecbu2019.org, as a deep shot goes and it goes and it goes and it keeps on going and actually lands on the boardwalk.
Thankfully, we had a fan there to stop it from going both sides out of the boardwalk. Nearly lays out for the catch from out of bounds.
I think Naves just asking the Dutch players where they want him to leave the disc. Doing a very nice and helpful task of bringing it slightly further forward. Good spirit on show.
Well, he's got the time because his teammate will be tapping the disc back live.
Yeah, nice of the Dutch as well, just to wait a couple of seconds to do so. Here's Paulo Norte stealing through with a quick run-through block. João Lopes run on that front cone, see if he can try and break around, fakes that little no pivot. Oh, lovely, goes for it once more. Lovely stuff. Now Ana Pires with it. Nave has it, breaks around, just about skips that one before it hits the sand. A bit of contact.
Yeah, Marceline Reitzma putting herself right in there, trying to get a D, but goodness gracious, Paula Norte knows that it's nearly the end of the game, and she said, I want to extend our lead if we can, and that's a break for Portugal.
I mean, you were commentating? It's been a long week already. Commentating in our last game, which also features the Portuguese side come back from a huge deficit and nearly take the win against Great Britain. So obviously we've seen that comebacks can happen here on the sand.
Indeed, but that will take an orange invasion on this pitch. They'll have to get inside the heads of the Portuguese, currently looking quite smooth right now, and Paula Norte clearly very ready to play this game, getting her team nice and fired up with that run-through block.
So just getting word from our statistician, Brian, that the caps now come on, so we'll have a game to 8.
Indeed, we shall. Portuguese in the lead, but the Dutch have the wind.
Going with a blading flick pull, it lands inbounds, rolls pretty much to roughly where the brick mark would have been anyway. Nice set of circumstances there for the Dutch. Here's Poik, finds it underneath. Verhulst looking around, not really enjoying what she sees. That's a great catch, that one from Hymans, to keep it in the air. Kleiston comes underneath this time. Poik's there as a reset. Doesn't necessarily like that option. I think he's been bumped a little bit on the mark there by number 83, Dimitri Ray. Yeah,
the uncontested foul is going to play right into his hands. It's a difficult shot to make that just completely backwards dump directly into the wind.
Now they're going to shoot, try to get it over the top, but it was well saw and Ferreira stuck out that big right paw, and I think it probably hit him on the wrist in the end, and it hits the sand.
Yeah, that's some solid goaltending.
So here's Diaz. Going to be a stoppage here for a foul. Number 99 for the Dutch, Deepak Chanamariappa. He's going to slap hands with his counterpart, Xiao Duarte. Duarte comes underneath. His throw sits a little bit, but he's got the position, so that's not a problem. Duarte holds that flick out. Blades all the way. That's a really nice read and a great throw. Stance was a little unconventional, but it worked. Here's Diaz. Dumping back. Ferreira trying to get it part of the mark of Keistens, and there's going to be another stoppage here.
So to go back to that big shot, Benji, Humans was so much under his mark that he was almost baiting that throw. I don't think he backed the Portuguese to be able to execute that with quite such smoothness.
Well, this is the risk you play. Bait that deep shot, and sometimes it'll bite you. Just about toes it on the sideline, does he? Yes, he does. Or does he?
It's the coach of this game, João Duarte. Duarte, sorry. This is a new project, this Masters Mixed team. They've never played together before, apart from they obviously had a warm-up tournament. They played at Mau in Lisbon. But they see everyone as their biggest rivals and looking for a mid-table finish. But if they keep playing like this, we could see them maybe snag one of the top spots.
They've dealt with the win much better than their opponents. Dump goes back. Here's Rui Ferreira. Not really seeing anything at all developing downfield, so just lashes it into the end zone on a high stall rather than take the turnover. Thinking that maybe someone can make a play, and if not, at least we've got some field position with it.
Yeah, nice put, very flat and fast though. So in a situation where your teammates might not be looking for you, very difficult for them to react.
Poit takes the reset. It's a bit high, but caught by Heymans. Underneath comes. Now here's Verhulst. Good switch executed by the Portuguese. Chanamariappa finds himself underneath, but the throw's a bit high. He can't quite get his hand in the right position around the disc. Haven't seen much of him this game. Maybe that's a factor of just not having that time on the pitch and haven't been properly able to adjust for the conditions.
Yeah, and his teammates will be picking themselves back up because there were 3 deep cuts at that point.
Here's Rui Ferreira is going to put this into the end zone. Oh, it's going to pop and it's going to get 2 hands on it. It's going to go out of this sideline in the end. Heymans with the D. There's a swing available, but it wouldn't surprise me if they just put it deep. That's what they're going to do, looking for Keistens. He can track this, he can read this. He's not going to be in the end zone, though. All of his teammates are halfway down the pitch. Got to quickly turn and try and find and isolate a reset. In the end, just pivots around, gets the dump, gets the little pop into Chanamariappa. So the Dutch closing the gap a little bit, but still going to score a couple of upwinders.
And that, I believe, is if we had the point cap on, Benji, that would be game. Oh no, it wouldn't, sorry. Portugal are ahead.
They are indeed,
Take it back.
It's been we'll let you off.
I'm just so used to them going on serve. It's the half that's messed with me. But no, that was a really actually nice, tasty bit of footwork there, just turning the hips nicely, because you'd expect there were 3 defenders and only 2 offensive players at that point, so there should have been a mismatch, but good footwork, tasty stuff, and another point on the board, keeping the dream alive for the Netherlands in this game.
I mean, I think the key is that the Dutch side haven't got any breaks the entire game, and the Portuguese are the only side that have been able to get it to work against the wind. All the points have been scored in that downwind direction, with the exception of 1, and it happened before half-time, so it essentially counted double for the Portuguese.
So the Netherlands team actually say they are a great Grandmasters mixed team, but was it good?
My gut instinct on the bid from Nuno Silva that it was down, and the players are going to agree. So here's Hillenius, now Spaniard. That's a lovely flat IO. Spaniard's free as a dump if he can turn and find him. Eventually gets it off. Spaniard looking up the line, underneath comes.
That's Caroline. She's been so free from her mark. Most of this point just separated by the disc and a cluster of players getting in the way.
Garrett puts it in the end zone. This is a floater. Everyone's underneath it. Oh, he got the highest and got a hand on it, did Paolo Toffinen, and they probably won't have a better shot at a point. At least they haven't really had one this game. But you've got to credit the defensive coverage, just making a nuisance of himself, really, Nuno Silva, and that's pretty much what you want to do in those situations when the disc gets high in the air.
Yeah, we nearly had the trash collection from Caroline underneath there, but too much bobble on it too.
And they're going to immediately give it back, overthrowing, just 2 runs up on the throw for the underneath cut from Ana Pires.
Yes, the Netherlands team, I started to say before things got a bit exciting there, they said they were waiting as a team to, they wanted to compete in the Grandmaster Mix division, but there is no division here in Grandmaster Mix, so they had to come play with the young'uns.
They're going to play it into the end zone. Toffinen's got that one, just kind of smuggles it and clutches it gratefully in the bread basket, and so there's an upwind break. It's come a little bit late for the Netherlands. They're going to need another one if they're going to claw this game back, but there is life in the old girl, yes, at 6-7.
Well, and with the win behind them, we could see this one go to Universe, perhaps with the same line we just saw, chuck it upwind. That's a much better put. Less hang on, it just blades nicely into the open waiting arms of Paolo Toffinen. We
haven't seen an O-line going in this direction since the very early points of the first half.
Well, I think they might be playing. Or do you mean for Portugal, of course, yes. Yes, indeed. We see the double hand backwards cap of the number 11, João Lopez. 2 assists and 1 score to his name. Quite an even spread of Portuguese's stats.
Relatively low scoring game, this one, but it's meant it's tight all the way through. Blading pull, they're going to let it hit the turf. Marco Nave underneath to Diaz.
The Netherlands just marking the unders, taking away the deep, but that's a large bit of separation. No huck's going to come.
Nave faking it, not really seeing a huge amount develop. The Dutch doing a concerted effort to sit underneath it, gets it over the defender. Nearly had a bid, but Naughty brings it in, dumped off now. Here's João Lopez. Good
stall out call.
Hannah. Doesn't seem particularly convinced about that, does Marco Nave. João Duarte is the player who currently has the disc in his hands.
It's going to be contested.
It's always tight in these conditions, working out exactly.
You can see our man with the field mark. Well, you could see the man with the field mark far side trying to gingerly totter over. See if we can pick up the discussion that's going on between Garrels and Nave.
It's going to be contested in the end. You see the hand signal. 2 hands into fists, hitting against each other. Everyone's going to have to go and reset their position, so it's going to take a little bit of time. Violation. Yep. Didn't check to see everyone was ready downfield. Both players need to do a little better job of making sure that everyone's in place before that happens.
Yep. See all the female players returning to their original positions, much closer to the handler.
So the previous throw was towards that far sideline to Norte, just about got over the head of Aguilar. We'll see what happens this time. Marco Nave looking downfield. Garrels getting ready to check the disc back in. Gets it off, but only into the sand. Duarte not going to get anywhere near that one. Hyman's picking it up, and I think it was an uncontested stall out anyway. So Hyman's gets a few more meters. Boyk looking around. Still rising. Love getting the foot involved, just being a real menace there is Diaz. Hyman's gets it. There's an around available, just takes the swing. And again, really getting the put in the way, trying to threaten that release point. Aguilar looking downfield, going to try and shoot a play to the sideline. Can he read it? Well read by Hyman, and we're going to Universe, Hannah.
Oh, this is getting very exciting indeed, Benji. We have seen so much from Juha Hyman's throughout this game. Often, it's surprising to see him actually with 2 scores, because he's usually the other side of the disc, but that was extraordinarily well tracked. A difficult move to make, especially on the sand. A bit of a chuck it and hope from the handler, but this is now all to play for. We'll see how many from that previous upwind score, Benji, we'll see return to the line.
We're having a timeout here called by the Netherlands, so they may be thinking we know who we want on, we need to get them as fresh as we possibly can here. Look, so they've got the maximum energy possible. I think you've got to, it's a risk, because you want to get enough defenders on so that you can generate that turnover and generate it close to the end zone in an advantageous position. But if you stack it with defenders who aren't necessarily supreme throwers, you're making it harder to then score if you do get the turn. It's a tricky balance to try and find, Hannah.
There does seem to be an interesting lack of overlap between people who are extremely good at getting blocks and people who are extremely good at throwing upwind. However, I think actually one of the other tactical elements of taking this timeout at this juncture in the game is that the Portuguese now have time to think too much. They have time to realise if you're just coming straight off the back of the other point, you know, you just roll on, next point, all right, let's just go put it in. If you have a timeout to go and G yourselves up offensively, it could actually potentially work mentality-wise in the favour of the Dutch, because the Portuguese now have to sit and think, and suddenly that stage fright might start to creep into their systems.
Portuguese breaking their timeout more quickly than their opponents, so they've got that 5 set and ready, letting the Dutch know what they've got to face, choosing to put 3 women, 2 men on the line. Could see for the Portuguese.
Oh no, it's not chosen. The genders, well, the gender ratio on the field is actually determined just by the system of switching. You have one of well, so it's either 3 and 2 of either gender. Starts with 1
Oh, we're
split.
actually using gender ratio A.
Indeed, we're using a strict gender ratio, so the volunteers have been keeping track of that here. No tactical choice of gender available to either team, keeping things honest.
So here comes the pull. It's relatively deep. That's probably the best pull we've seen going in this direction from the Dutch, but it sits up nicely for Lopez, and he's got the disc now, looking for an around break to Ferreira. Making the catch, Rui Ferreira.
We see a takeoff deep.
Trying to put it, oh, great poach, really well read by Marilyn Riesma.
Riesma very well indeed.
Got the disc now, there's 2 gloved hands, finds an underneath cut. Hillenius, who's seen do a lot of work in this direction. Now Garelts. Looking for Riesma. Overthrown, but well caught in by Caroline Gross. The Dutch, all of a sudden, seem like the wind's not a massive problem. Oh, nearly jinxed him there, Arnold Garelts. Finds Hillenius. Squeezes it in, just about squeezes it into Riesma. Swung into the centre for Belliars. Shot into the end zone, love for the win for the Dutch!
That was absolutely sensational. The Dutch really wanted that, Benji, so much.
From out of nowhere, the Dutch win this game. The Portuguese were in total control. The Dutch had shown no fortitude to work it against the wind, and all of a sudden they found something deep inside of them that I didn't know existed, and what a win this is for the Netherlands.
Absolutely sensational, and I have to say, hands down, all-out credit has to go to the women of the Netherlands side in that point, going to task from the amazing pull from Tessel Hillenius to the bids of Caroline. Just, and also that D read, great work. Let's have a look at that far sideline. Layout again.
Fantastic layout from Caroline Gross. And then what I love is the presence of mind. Don't get rid of the disc quickly, just steady yourself. Finds the dump, a little bit behind, but adjusts well, makes the catch. towards the far sideline. And there was not a huge window here. This is tough to focus, not worry about the line, trust your positioning. Then again, presence of mind, swinging the disc into the middle. Beldiars gets underneath it, makes the catch, and this is a little bit of a dicey throw, it has to be said. And what a grab, full extension on the layout.
Puts the arm in the air. Yes, I caught it.
I don't understand how the Dutch won that. Fantastic grab at the end from Caroline Gross. Here's that earlier layout as well towards that far sideline. Just two absolute things of beauty in that point.
Well, that wraps out on our Benji. We have action next from the Master Women's Division. That'll be the Germans versus Great Britain. I'll be back on the mic for that with my buddy Tom Stiles.
Yeah, you've got a bit of a break before that coming live at 3:30. After that, we've got Grandmaster Men action as well at 20:05, and then 10:06 in the evening. Great Grandmaster Men's featuring Courier Island and the Netherlands back on the stream once more. Just seeing it again, what a grab. Fantastic work by our camera crew, but just cannot say, in the moment, just knowing that that's for the game, for the win, Netherlands flood the fields, and rightly so. What a fantastic performance coming back out of nowhere from the Dutch. Wrapping it up here now. Go and have your lunch. I think you've all earned it.
And finally, at the end of the game, Benji, getting that all-important, not just one, but two upwind scores. Fabulous performance from the Dutch.
Courageous performance there from the Netherlands. For Hannah Pendlebury and our statistician Brian, I've been Benjamin Rees, and we will see you on the other side.
TV.